Okay, good evening. Welcome to Axiom Flux, episode 16, season 4. Today's date is the 25th of February 2018. So, we've got a few in the back cave tonight. We've got Predator Jeff. Evening, Jeff.
Hi, Stav. All right, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. As long as you're keeping okay, that's the main thing. We've also got Lopi. Hello, Lopi.
Hello, my darling.
Hello. Good. And also PJ, the tech man, and the odd input man. All right, PJ.
Yeah, all right, Stav. Evening, guys.
All right, that's all good. Well, I've done the introduction. And it's me, Stav. Tonight's topic episode, call it what you like, is something that used to be taught quite a bit when I was young, and it was called the Golden Rule. Now, the Golden Rule. What is the Golden Rule? Well, I put it as other people do. You can have the biblical term, or like I was brought up as treat others as you would expect to be treated yourself. Pretty straightforward, really. But to get a bit more of an in-depth of what it's about, I've got a little video to kick off tonight that Jeff's going to play for me, and we'll watch it for a minute and a half, and it'll give us a clearer view of what we're talking about, hopefully. So when you're ready to roll, Jeff.
Okie dokie, mate. I'll just get the screen share going. And here we go. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, I think so.
Okie dokie.
Give it a go.
The gold,
yeah.
The rule of altruism.
Okie doke. Okay. Okay. Well, if you followed the video, it's a little bit quick to read all of the words, but if you've noticed, it's mostly taught through religions. It goes way back, pre-Christianity, all the way back to Sanskrit, ancient Sanskrit writings, as far as I've read, and I haven't found it, Vedic that far back, but I presume it was there. But they from Confucianism to Christianity to all other religions, and they teach the Golden Rule. Now, it's something I think we're all born with, and you really don't need teaching from religion, because it's something that comes naturally, I think. But
inherent.
I don't know if in this day and age whether that's changed. I can only speak for myself as a part of the older generation. So it'd be interesting to get younger views on the Golden Rule, whether they know what it means, whether it's taught anymore, and whether they can connect with it as an inner feeling as part of it. That would be interesting. If anybody can leave any comments on the video afterwards or whatever, they'd be very most welcome, especially.
I sometimes wonder, Stav, if the Golden Rule has changed from from what we've just discussed there to he who has the gold makes the damn rules.
Well, yeah, I suppose. I think it's mentioned that it's a part of altruism, or along those lines. But that could you say that would be altruistic if there's a word for that? What you've just said, but I don't know. It's something that the older generations didn't have to be taught, but it was taught anyway. And like I say, a lot of it was through religion.
It's a sort of inherently known common sense thing, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. That's right. I mean, I don't want to. The whole idea of this tonight is to just put it out there to see if it's still practiced today as it used to when I was a kid. Really, I mean, I've got a little thing to read about it, which it actually is part of law. Well, let's just say it was enshrined in law by a king from many years ago in England called Alfred the Great, and he done many things that followed the golden rule. Really, in actual fact, I'll read the article and you can decide for yourself. But it was part of how this kingdom stopped being a war with each other. Tribes, Vikings, Saxons, Anglo-Saxons, Angles, Celts, Bretonians, whatever. It brought that all to an end. It was the main part of his way of bringing England together for the first time ever, as England, as we know, as Angles and Saxons and whatever. And it served its purpose too well. Of course, all these things, after a while, other people come in with other ideas, and unfortunately, it gets put to one side. I think it's still in most people today. Well, decent people. But it has got a negative and a positive side to it. But some people don't think of that because, they tend to get carried away with the physics and science where equal and opposite Newtonian law comes in, and they say, well, that's against Newtonian law. It doesn't work like that. They think if you do bad, then you must get good back in that sense. So I can't quite work that out, but there we are. Certainly not the golden rule. But I've got
another guest that's joined us. I don't know whether you want to bring CHRISY.
Hello, gents, and if there's any ladies here.
Hello, CHRISY.
How we doing? You all right, guys?
All right, CHRISY.
Yeah, we're all right.
Yeah. I've had a day of trials today, so I'm not that talkative.
Oh, right, okay. We're talking about the golden rule, CHRISY, and
the golden rule.
What it was, what it is.
He who has the gold has the rule.
No, that's the second person that said that tonight.
What's the golden rule, fellas? Just remind me.
I think that's the golden rule. I think that's the golden rule that clouded the golden rule.
Yeah.
And why is gold the rule? Because
what we're discussing tonight, CHRISY, is do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
It's basically kindness, compassion, and community spirit, I think.
Yeah. Wouldn't the world be a better place if everyone just sort of, imagine that what they was doing to another person, was what they was going to get back themselves, sort of if everyone had an understanding of karma and stuff like that, it'd make the world such a better place, so...
Exactly. With all this warring with these religions and ideologies, I think we can at least try and look to see if there's something that underpins everybody and holds us all together.
I personally, guys, I think it's the whole right and wrong thing. It's people can do some very wrong stuff because they think it's right, and it's having that understanding of where something that is very, very good is then turned into something very, very bad. Going back to sort of like, and not trying not to go off the subject too much, folks, but if you look at the finances, and sort of like, money. Well, money was a very, very good idea. It created a way that people that couldn't barter could still trade. So it was a very, very good thing. But, then it got made into an evil you know, it got bastardized and stuff like that. And, you know, people worked out how to make something that was making everyone's life a lot easier and better, all of a sudden became, you know, an absolute demon and probably the bane of everyone's existence, you know. So it's very similar.
It's sort of turned us all into economic slaves, hasn't it, Chrissy?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. I mean, it's a good idea, you know, to, I mean, I do a lot of bartering now. It's, you know, I'm a boxing coach. If someone is doing me a favour, you know, I had a guy put a few slabs down the other day and, you know, he said to me, he went, oh, can I, you know, use the gym for a little while? I'm like, yeah, of course you can. That'd be that's perfect because, you know, him putting them slabs down done me the favour. Me giving him use of the gym for a few hours done him the favour, and there was no tax man in the middle to try and rob us, which you know, definitely worked out. You know,
Yeah.
but if he hadn't needed to use the gym, I would have had to give him some slave tokens, which wouldn't have been, you know, the better option. But you know, that was what money was invented for. It was invented to keep the wheels turning. The trouble is, those wheels are in some big monstrous machine now, and not the wheels that should be the machines that work for us. We're now working for them. You know, it's taken that monstrous edge to it now, guys. You know.
Yes, well, that's the middleman for you. But there are bits. I won't hold on it a bit, but there are wars within wars going on all over the place. And I would suggest people take a check out on cryptocurrencies and don't get too sucked in by the misinformation, disinformation. Look for yourself.
The financial institutions, you know, the traditional financial institutions are shitting themselves, which gives me great, you know, hope, because if they are that against it, it's got to be a good thing.
Oh, most definitely.
And honestly, it's an honest transaction, cryptocurrency, and it also follows the golden rule in the truest of forms.
Yep, that's right. Absolutely, it does. It's circumnavigate. No, it just gets rid of the middleman, the merchant, the man in the middle, and you know, people become their own. You want to call it a term, banks, I suppose. I don't like the word banks much. River banks, fine. I used to do a lot of fishing. I like bank in that sense. Towers of the river bank, whatever. But I think cryptocurrency is there for a reason. And what pleases me about it all, without coming too far off topic, is that you know, they, like Chrissy said, they're absolutely crapping their pants about it. And you know what, guys? They can't do a goddamn thing about it. They'll have to get rid of the internet, as you know, and to get rid of the internet now, there's so many clever people, and we don't know what has been going up in space with the Falcon 9 rocket every other week now, mostly satellites. And so therefore, you know, killing the internet switch, they'd have to take down the national grids and the power of all the countries to get rid of the internet now, as far as what I've read. So
yeah, we're far too reliant on internet. I mean, I spend far too much time on it, but you know, I haven't actually got too much invested in the internet. You know, I've not got a bank account or anything like that. So, you know, if everything went off tomorrow, I could still have a life comparable to what I've got now, and I'm believe it or not, very, very happy with the way I am right now. You know, I fear for the future, but I'm happy with everything I've got right now because, you know, I've not got any zeros on a computer screen, which scares the life out of people. And even though that isn't real, I mean, you know, everyone now is starting to wake up to the fact that, you know, the zeros on the computer screen are only, you know, literally fictitious. It's one of them things, guys, where folks have got to realise that before they build something else, they might have to take a few of the bricks out of what was. So we need to bring down the financial institutions a little bit more, and just causing a sort of like a minor run on one of the banks by everyone taking out a few £100 on the same day. Even just because I think the man on the street is sitting there thinking wrongly that their money is actually physical. and that they can go and get their money out of their bank. You know, but it's got $5 grand in a bank, for instance. They're thinking, yeah, I could go and get that tomorrow. And, you know, if everyone decided to go and get that tomorrow, and that tomorrow was tomorrow, all of a sudden people would start to realise that there isn't that money in there. And that would cause the panic that would send a shudder down the financial institutions and should it level in the playing field a bit.
That's right, because of course, because it's fractional reserve banking, it means that at any given time there's only a fraction of what there is in these zeros and numbers actually in hard physical cash within the banks.
Yeah, that's it. And the thing is, if we started lending out sort of like up to 9 times what we actually had, they'd call it fraud. The banks can do it and call it, you know, fiat currency.
Yeah, and then they do quantitative easing, which of course is the legal term for counterfeiting.
Yeah, print more. Print more. Hope people have the same belief in it.
Which is, in effect, not just counterfeiting, but is also a form of robbery, because, of course, if you increase the money supply or the amount in the money supply, you're actually inflating the money supply, is causing inflation. So you drive prices up, which means your money has now got less spending power than it had before they inflated it.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's the banking industry taken care of. So, what should we bring it back on topic to the golden rule, and because I think we can extend it in other areas and not so much get preoccupied with the religious side of it, but I think we best sort of recognise that side of it, not dwell on it too much. I know a lot of people are atheists today, and they think religion is a form of nothing else but have been a form of control over the people, like any other the idealisms, and that's a fair comment, really. Like I say, I don't want to get too involved with that, but I've got an article to read, and it's about Alfred the Great and how he used the golden rule or parts of it to build England, really. And that's where it starts for me. It's my favourite period in history, obviously. So I can do that, or you can put it over to LOPI. I think you've got an article, haven't you, LOPI? You want to go through just on is it the biblical side of it, on religion?
No, actually, it's I've got a few articles I'd like to share. I've got the golden rule, and I have the alter ego of altruism of the golden rule, and basically, you know, because in nature we have positive and negative, and even though the negative does tend to be quote unquote negative, there are some benefits to it, to altruism, and I just got a few little links that I'd like to share, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to?
All right.
Chrissy?
Hello.
Yes, Chrissy.
Sorry, I was just saying to LOPI. That's great. If she wants, you know, I'm all ears.
Cool. Go ahead, LOPI.
Jeff, I'm going to post in the link. If you could put that up on the screen.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, hang on. Screen share. Can you see that? Okay.
I can see it, but I'm looking on my page.
My phone is struggling, but I'll listen contently anyway, guys.
Can you see that? Okay, Stav?
I can see it now. I clicked on you. Yeah.
All right. This is an article from Got Questions. It's a webpage, and I'm sure we'll have a link in the description. But first, the question is, what is the golden rule? The answer: the golden rule is the name given to a principle taught by Jesus in his Sermon on the Mount. The actual words golden rule are not found in scripture, just as the words Sermon on the Mount are not found. These titles were later added by biblical translations in order to make the Bible study a little easier. The phrase golden rule began to be ascribed to this Jesus's teaching during the 16th and 17th centuries. What we call the golden rule refers to Matthew 7:12. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for the sum of the law and the prophets. It says Jesus knew that the human heart and in its selflessness. In fact, the preceding verse, he describes the human beings as nearly beings as innately evil. Jesus' golden rule gives us standard by which naturally selfish people can gauge their actions, actively treat others the way they themselves want to be treated. I'm not going to read the whole thing. This is the English Standard Version. It says, basically states, whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. But this is the law and the prophets. It basically says the same thing. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. That's written in the Bible. This article also states some of the examples of definition or what you call it, versions. And Confucianism, for instance, do not do to others what you do not want them to do to you. Hinduism, the sum of duty, do not do to others that would cause pain if done to you. And Buddhism, hurt not others in ways that you yourself would not be hurtful. It is obviously the same thing, but these other religions, these other styles of life, put it in their form. Confucianism, if you look at Confucianism or follow it, it is more of a profound, thought-provoking way of life. Hinduism has a lot of gods. They're polygonal. Polytheistic. Thank you. But they are very mathematical. They're very goal-oriented religion. Buddhism is a lot about your feelings. You know, they don't crush an ant because they don't think that it's proper. Just because you can do it, you shouldn't do it. I've got another article here by Think Humanism, and I think it's a very good article. Jeff, can you please post this one?
You want me to take this one down, yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Right, which one?
The last link.
Okie dokie. This one, yeah. Can you see that okay?
Yes. This one is called by Think Humanism, and it gives you another form of understanding of what the golden rule is, rather than a theological aspect, but a moral aspect.
Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
You can read it.
Sorry?
You can read it. And then I've got another article on the alter ego.
Right, this one, the golden rule, it says humanists try to embrace the moral principle known as the golden rule, otherwise known as the ethic of reciprocity, which means we believe that people should aim to treat each other as they would like to be treated themselves, with tolerance, consideration, and compassion. Humanists like the Golden Rule because of its universality, because it's derived from human feelings and experience, and because it requires people to think about others and try to imagine how they might think and feel. It is a simple and clear default position for moral decision making. Sometimes people argue that the Golden Rule is imperfect because it makes the assumption that everyone has the same tastes and opinions and wants to be treated the same in every situation. But the Golden Rule is a general moral principle, not a hard and fast rule to be applied to every detail of life. Treating other people as we would wish to be treated ourselves does not mean making the assumption that others feel exactly as we do about everything. The treatment we all want is recognition that we are individuals, each with our own opinions and feelings, and for those opinions and feelings to be afforded respect and consideration. The Golden Rule is not an injunction to impose one's will on someone else. Trying to live according to the Golden Rule means trying to empathize with other people, including those who may be very different from us. Empathy is at the root of kindness, compassion, understanding, and respect. Qualities that we all appreciate being shown, whoever we are, whatever we think, and wherever we come from. And although it isn't possible to know what it really feels like to be a different person or live in different circumstances and have different life experiences, it isn't difficult for most of us to imagine that what would cause us suffering and to try avoid causing suffering to others. For this reason, many people find the Golden Rule's corollary: do not treat people in a way you would not wish to be treated yourself, more pragmatic. The Golden Rule cannot be claimed for any one philosophy or religion. Indeed, the successful evolution of communities has depended on its use as a standard through which conflict can be resolved. Throughout the ages, many individual thinkers and spiritual traditions have promoted one or other version of it. Here are some examples of the different ways it has been expressed. Do not to your neighbor what you would take ill from him. Pittacus, 650 BCE. Do not unto another that you would not have him do unto you. Thou needest this law alone. It is the foundation of all the rest. Confucius, 500 BCE. Avoid doing what you would blame others for doing. Thales, 464 BCE. What you wish your neighbours to be to you, such be also to them. Sextus the Pythagorean, 406 BCE. We should conduct ourselves towards others as we would have them act towards us. Aristotle, 384 BCE. Cherish reciprocal benevolence, which will make you as anxious for another's welfare as your own. Aristippus of Cyrene, 365 BCE. Act toward others as you desire them to act toward you. Isocrates, 338 BCE. This is the sum of duty. Do naught unto others which would cause you pain if done to you. From the Mahabharata, 5:15-17, 300 BCE. What is hateful to you, do not to your fellow men. That is the entire law. All the rest is commentary. Rabbi Hillel, 50 BCE. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. From the Bible, Leviticus 19:18, 1440 BCE. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. Jesus of Nazareth, circa 30 CE. There you go.
Yeah, Jeff, before you get rid of that, he's got rid of it.
Get it back up. It's not a problem.
Oh, I just wanted to, before you go on with Lopi's last link and article, just go down the page a bit there. I think the last paragraph, it says the golden rule cannot be claimed for any one philosophy or religion. Indeed, the successful evolution of communities has depended on its use as a standard for which conflict can be resolved. Now, I just remember them words, because when I bring my article up, I'll give you a perfect example of where a such guy or king used it specifically to do that. So, yeah, all yours, Jeff.
Okie dokie. Do you want me to switch that off? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
The golden rule basically is the foundation for every religion, every moral code that you would have. It's in basically your human rights that you can't, or it should be in your human rights. Every empath follows it. Every Wiccan follows it. Every religion. It's one of the cornerstones of that religion, because empaths know. Those that don't know what an empath is a person that is well attuned to others' emotions, their feelings, the energy, their vibrations that the others and animals give out. It tends to be a very emotional person. They can be very sad because of the amount of negativity that is brought in, but they also know the positive, the good, and that is the humanistic side of the golden rule and empaths.
I did hear one version actually of the golden rule, which is slightly different. It's do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but does not apply to masochists, because of course masochists like to be beaten. The vast majority of us don't like to really be beaten, do we?
There's also so many different versions of the golden rule. You have like Confucianism refers to it, and Buddhism refers to it as the ethics of reciprocity. And basically, I'm reading an article here. You don't have to put it up on the screen, but I'm sure we'll put it in the link. Statement by Gautama Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, which is the 5th largest world religion after Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and the Chinese traditional religion. The quote goes, "Resolve to be tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic with the striving, and tolerant with the weak and wrong." These are all basically in a nutshell, the how to behave. It's called common sense in today's terms. It's
common morality.
Exactly. And I've got, what is this? Oh, that's what I was just looking at. Sorry. It's very simple. Once you have these sort of things in you, I know that everybody on this panel was raised with parents and grandparents that taught you to say your blessings. When you sneeze, somebody says bless you. When you receive something, you say thank you. You ask, may I? You just don't do it without having this common courtesy. We call it a common courtesy, but it's the golden rule. You would not want somebody to just come into your house and do whatever they want. So you knock on the door. You ask, may I come in? That sort of thing. That's the golden rule. That's an example of that. The alter ego of it is of the golden rule is which we have determined is giving oneself and being empathetic to the other person's emotions, feelings, state of mind, state of being. The alter ego is altruism, and I've got the a link here of the definition for you. If you want that up to see that.
You want me to put that up, Opie?
You don't have to, but I'm putting the link in. Altruism or altruism, debate, belief, or in practice of disinterested and selfless concern of the well-being of others. It's the alter ego of the golden rule. Now this article you may want to read out loud, but it's this last link I'm posting. Altruism is when we act to promote someone else's welfare, even at the risk or cost to ourselves. I am not reading this very well. My eyes are not doing very good today. I'm sorry. Though some believe that humans are fundamentally self-interested, recent research suggests otherwise. Studies have found that people's first impulse is to cooperate rather than compete. That toddlers spontaneously help people in need out of genuine concern for their welfare. That even non-human primates display altruism. Evolutionary scientists speculate that altruism is the deep roots in human nature because helping and cooperation promote the survival of our species. Indeed, Darwin himself argued that altruism, he called sympathy or benevolence, is an essential part of social instincts. Darwin's claim that is supported by recent neuroscience studies, which have shown that when people behave altruistically, their brains activate in regions that signal pleasure and reward, similar to when we eat chocolate or have sex. So I don't do that, so I don't have any idea what that is about. It doesn't mean that humans are more altruistic than selfish. Instead, evidence suggests that we have deeply ingrained tendencies and act in either direction. Our challenge lies in finding ways to invoke the better angles of our nature. I'm going to go on the other link of that article, and it says, why practice altruism when you have your basic golden rule? Why go and put yourself in harm's risk at the risk of others? Why put your back out to do that for them? And one of the things that we had STAV and Jeff and PJ and I had talked about the other night was what was that? Mayban Fun or Mayban Fa, which is
Mayban Fa, yes.
Yes, that's the alter ego of all this. I had it mixed up. I'm sorry. But that's the alter ego of altruism and the golden rule. And Stav can explain that when he gets talking. But it says here, why practice it? Nice guys finish last. Hardly more and more research suggests that practicing altruism enhances our personal well-being, emotionally, physically, and romantically, and perhaps even financially. It's also crucial to stable and healthy communities and the well-being of our species as a whole. Still need to be convinced that to be kind, it makes people happy. It gets, as it stated earlier, it basically sends off endorphins like chocolate and sex does. It when you do something that that you're proud of, that you've helped your neighbor. Let's say you're walking down the street and your neighbor, an elderly neighbor, falls down, and you're on the other side of the street and it's high traffic. You see your neighbor, you care about your neighbor. You don't even look at the traffic. You just cross the street and know that your neighbor had fallen down and may hurt themselves. That's altruism. You're putting yourself in risk to go and help somebody, to make sure they're okay, to provide them a service, to be a benefit to you. That gives you a good feeling when it's done. Your chest is puffed out bigger. You feel great. It's all those endorphins going in your body. It's good for your health. It lowers your blood pressure. When I don't know if you recognize it, if you pay attention to your body, when you're angry, your thought process is slower. You can't get your words out. You stutter. You lack oxygen. Your brain doesn't seem to work. You get tongue-tied like I am now because I'm excited. You know.
You don't sound tongue-tied.
Yes, because I'm excited.
With all emotions need to have some sort of guidance to them, and the only way to get that is from experience. I mean, speaking from a personal level, I'm quite an angry person. I can get very angry at times, but the thing is, I've learned to harness my anger to make it into something that can be used and used for the right things. It's like fire, for instance. Fire can burn your house down, or it can keep you warm and cook your food. You've got to know how to harness different things, and becoming altruistic is a journey. It definitely is a journey. You've got to suffer on that journey. I mean, if you look at a journey as a walk, you're going to get a few bunions. You might sort of need a couple of pairs of shoes and stuff. You've just got to go through it to see the sort of the destination, to guide others to it. If you can,
I quite agree. Carry on with that. Go on.
I was just going to say, just as a personal note, not personal note, but what I believed to be altruism was to give of yourself without to give of yourself without actually having any recompense for your actions. So it's like a sort of giving without expecting anything in return for your gifts. But however, some psychologists believe that there's no such thing as actual altruism, because of course you do get something back, even if it's just a feeling of good being for doing a good deed. So, some psychologists believe that technically there's no actual thing such as true altruism. But,
the reward thing they call it, don't they? I'm struggling for my words now. It's the reward scenario or something like that they actually call it in psychology, which basically means that you won't do anything unless it actually benefits you in some way, even if it's a small way or sort of like a non-physical manner. But
even that you
get, it's definitely the way forward, because we've got society just absolutely bombarding our children and us with the material stuff, I mean, you know, you know, not going too far off the subject, folks, but I had a conversation with someone the other day that said that someone hadn't contributed, and I was like, hang on a minute, why do you think they haven't contributed? And they went, well, they haven't given us any money. And I'm like, contribute isn't just money. It's not just a monetary thing. You know, contributing, you can contribute with time, with energy, with everything. There's 100 ways to contribute. Money's just one of them. And nowadays, everyone's thinking that they've got to do something for a reward, and that reward should be a monetary one. And you know, that's getting away from the very essence of community.
I agree totally, Chrissy. I think if people were a little bit more altruistic and remember that if people give of their time and energy, that can be just as kind and giving as somebody that gives, you know, slave tokens or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Going back to the golden rule, folks, wouldn't it be fantastic if all the holy men and women got together and sort of like said to themselves, you know what, this is a common denominator in all these different faith systems. Should we highlight that even, you know, I mean, obviously the main two religions that seem to be butting heads right now are Christianity and Islam. Wouldn't it be great if they could find the similar phrase in both of the holy books, the Quran and the Bible, and say this is a common denominator that should unify us? You know, we can disagree about loads of things, but let's find the stuff that we can agree on. So we become.
Well, that's meant to be it, Chris. We've got a little diagram here. If in fact I might be able to put it up on screen. Have you got that image that you can just put up?
I can't see an image, guys.
I can't see anything at the moment.
No, I'm still looking for it. Have you got it, Stav? Stick it up then. I think it's time we should put this up.
Right,
I've got something hope for Stav.
Sorry, Chrissy?
Sorry, mate, I've got Sutton Hove for you, mate. Is that the Sutton Hove? Ah, there you go. Hang on, I've got a Predator one now. Oh no, different.
Hang on, yeah. I should.
Confusing me.
Hang on, no, wait a minute. I've got the wrong one again here. Sorry, that's. Is it up there?
I could see it then for a second, then it went off.
Oh.
Well, click on me. Click on Stab's helmet. I should.
Now, wouldn't it be nice if all the holy men put that out rather than sort of like, you know, all the sort of like Allah's a bloody paedophile and sort of like Moses is killing children and all that sort of stuff? Wouldn't it be nice if they all put up something that everyone could unify with and something that all religions could agree on?
But yes, actually, Chrissy. Well, while you're on that point, let's just read Islam's writings of the Golden Rule. Yeah. Islam, not one of you truly believes until you wish for others what you wish for yourself.
That's cool. That's cool. You know, I'd be happy with that one. That's close enough to the Golden Rule as I understand it from all the other religions. You know, it would be a way to unify, but the trouble is, once a religion opens itself up to another religion by agreeing with it, it's then risking losing that person to that religion, which is probably what they don't want to do. You know, the pigeonholing is too ingrained in all the religions, sadly.
Maybe what we need to do is to combine all the religions into one called just the Golden Rule. And then that way it gets rid of all the differences and it puts together all the unity.
Then you'd have the bankers jumping on it, making golden effigies of some new god that they try to sell to us for 4 times the value that it ever was.
Yeah, on that point, Chrissy, that's a good point you make there, because what Lopi was saying earlier on, well, they do wheel out the Golden Rule once a year, and it's fully commercialised and corporated, and everybody knows the Christmas. The Christmas Carol. Was it Scrooge? Sorry, Scrooge. Scrooge. Yes. You know, they wheel that Golden Rule out, or you know, interpret the same meaning, once a year at Christmas, and it's purely for commerciality or commercialism. Sorry, and it's a shame. And then it gets put away, but it's not really put out for the main reason. On like you say, they want to make money off it. It's yeah, sad, isn't it? But there we are.
That is what's so wonderful about altruism. Sorry, is the fact that the golden rule obviously is the basis of altruism, and the basis of all religions, and should be the moral of everybody's lives. But it's infectious. Once you start giving a damn about somebody else is going to start giving a damn about another person. They're going to start realizing, you know what, I was a dick. That was, I shouldn't have done that. That was kind of mean. I'm sorry. And things are going to end up being a bit more genuine.
The moment someone stands up and says this isn't right, it makes it so much easier for everyone else to do the same. It's that little push. Right now we're struggling with the apathy of, I'm finding it hard to make anyone younger than me care about anything other than money. And just the whole point of everyone realizing that, we're better off together is so much easier. Rather than I want what you've got, we're better off together. It's so easy.
It's interesting that you just mentioned that about money from a lot of younger people. Let me just quickly mention this one. It's called utilitarianism. It's not to be confused with Unitarianism, which is completely different. I'll read your definition in quick. An ethical philosophy in which the happiness of the greatest number of people in the society is considered the greatest good. According to this philosophy, an action is morally right if its consequences lead to happiness, in brackets, absence of pain, and wrong if it ends in unhappiness. Since the link between actions and their happy or unhappy outcomes depends on the circumstances, no moral principle is absolute or necessary in itself under utilitarianism. So that's like a different throw on it.
I like that, mate. That's if you imagine
like socialism
type thing where people could sort of like, they say to themselves, "Oh, we want this," but ultimately it's at a greater cost to everyone in the long run. Like, for instance, everyone's saying, "Oh, we ain't got enough wood for the fire," so they chop down all the rainforests, and then all of a sudden everyone works out that, oh, hang on, we've just sort of like, sliced the lungs of the planet up, if you see what I'm saying. So like a false economy, though. Telling people what they need in the long run is so difficult when they've got nothing. It's I watched a DVD the other day about a country. I can't remember it now, guys. Sorry, it's late. But basically, they was trying to convince the fishermen not to fish the waters so hard, so they could maintain the fish stocks. But the fishermen were literally starving. So it's like, you're trying to tell someone that when they're hungry, they can't eat. They don't realise that in a month there won't be anything to feed them at all. It's that false economy type thing. We've got to sort of realise what we can do, what we can't do, and what's going to be good for the next generation.
Well, that's kind of basically what altruism and the golden rule is. It's almost like a form of socialism, where you're looking out for the benefit of others, whereas altruism is they're being
altruistic is the key. There's no other way, really. Everyone looks after everyone else and stuff like that, and you're going to get the occasional sort of psychopathic, greedy person. I'll be completely honest. I've not got a massive conscience, but I have got a very good moral compass. And you know, all of the decisions that you make in life can pretty much be dwindled down to the choice between good and evil and good and bad. And you know, no matter how complicated it gets, there'll be an opportunity in every decision for everyone to make, to say, is this right or is this wrong? And that is what we are not teaching our younger generations as much. What you know, society is teaching our children is to say what is good for me, not what is good for everybody, what is good for us.
Yeah.
You know,
not even what is good, good for me. It's more like, what do I want?
You're speaking at once there. Go ahead. You go first, Lopi.
Sorry, what I was saying was that maybe not necessarily what is good for me, but more like, what do I want more for me?
There's a big question. You know, it's one of my biggest things. So I always ask people to ask themselves this: what do they want and what do they need? Now, when you ask someone what they want, they might say, I want a Ferrari, I want a 5-bedroom mansion, I want a swimming pool, I want this and I want that. Now, want gets you into trouble, I believe. You know, it's good to have ambitions, but ambitions that sort of, you know, that serve everyone and not just yourself. So, you know, I mean, I have right now everything I need, you know, and I'm not in any sort of troubles. You know, I've got I need my children to love me. I need my wife to love me. You know, I need to be fed every day. I need a roof over my head. All those things I need, and I've attained all that, and I'm happy. I am ridiculously happy, even though I've not got everything I want. Now, what I might want is flash cars, a swimming pool, a mansion, a this, a that. But I'm going to have to do that to someone else's, at someone else's expense, in a way. You know, I could not live a flash lifestyle with, you know, loads of luxuries and stuff like that, full well knowing that there are people out there on the street, that there are people that need, you know, that are hungry, there are children that are living in poverty. So, you know, and that's quite altruistic, I think. You know, that's a good way to look at things. I will not allow myself to be a corporate sort of, you know, excuse the phrase, cocksucker. You know, when I know there's people out there that sort of like could do with the luxuries I have, and it's not all about, you know, sort of like working for nothing and the rich people giving away everything. But it's if we could just bring people into the middle rather than at either ends, you know, because you've got sort of like a small minority that are ultra rich and will never spend all the things, you know, all the money they have, and it is literally just a game for them now. They're literally just putting zeros on their computer screens in their banks, and you've got people that are really, really poor. Now, if we could just sort of like, you know, grab some of the riches from the top half, put them in the middle, and then give them to the people at the bottom half to take them out of the gutter, that would be such a better way of doing things. Because, you know, you don't need to be mega rich. And if we tax the rich a little bit more, guess what? They'll still be the richest. They're not going to really suffer. It doesn't really matter that a zero's gone off their computer screen because they can't spend it. You know, it's just sitting there. It's like holding money. And there are people there that could be given to take them out of complete poverty. They'll always be rich and they'll always be poor, but there should never, ever be extremely rich or extremely poor.
That makes perfect sense. I think STAV has had something that you wanted to say and would like to give us a example of the other extreme. STAV?
Yeah, thanks. Well, listen, don't apologise. It's been great listening. I've been enjoying what you have to say, and CHRISY and Jeff and PJ. And thanks for the reading of the articles that you had, and you've left the links up. That's good, Lopi. So, I've been quite. That's right. No worries. You know, it's good when it's a good conversation. It's a pleasure to be a listener, and yeah, I've always sort of been that way in life. And I think, what was it now? I think one of the films, I think was it the 80s or 90s, Wall Street, with a certain chap called Gordon Gekko who said greed is good. You know, it kind of sort of was fed by the movie business, Hollywood, and a lot of people in the street I came across sort of knew that phrase, you know, and I think everybody all of a sudden wanted to be a Gordon Gekko or something like that, but it's not the case. I wasn't brought up like that, and obviously Chrissy wasn't, and I think all of us in this room wasn't. So, but getting back to the golden rule, well, yeah, I've got an article, and it's just kicking on from one of yours, Lopi, that I picked up a little bit. It said in there that I think Jeff read it, and it was about the golden rule in cases past history where it's actually been used to settle conflicts. So what I'll do if I screen share is I might not read the whole article because it's a bit long, but we'll see how we go, and how good I am at reading this evening determines how many paragraphs I read of it. So anyway, it's this chap. Of course, I'm heavily biased in my historical interest because it's one of my favourite times, and it's this chap here.
Yeah,
I always bring him up. Yeah, I always bring him up because he was the only monarch to have the word "great" written about him, and so there's a reason for that. In this article,
what about Alexander the Great?
Yeah, but I'm going to be patriotic here. This guy gave us the nationality of English, really, because he brought all the Angles and Saxons and Vikings.
But he was right.
Anyway, yeah, he was a Greek, and good for him. Well, Macedonian. His father was Macedonian, wasn't he?
When Alexander witnessed the breadth of his domain, he wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer. There you go.
Right, very good, Chrissy. Yeah, you're teaching me things now. That's good. I'm more home based. I'm more
classical history.
Yeah. Well, this chap here. Well, they called him Alfred the Great because in a lot of historians' minds and thoughts, he was really great. And
trivia for you. That was the reason why they called Alfred the Butler, Alfred the Great.
Oh yeah.
You know Alfred, Batman's butler.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
It was to tip the hat at, and I can't remember where I heard this from, but it was to tip the hat at basically the greatest Englishman ever, and that's what they called the butler Alfred, because he was an Englishman, something like that.
You're a mind of information, Chrissy. Absolutely brilliant.
The trouble is, it pushes some good stuff out every now and then. Guys, I'm going to have to come back to you. I've got my little girl waving at me from the stairs. I think she needs me to put her to bed. It's 9 o'clock. I'll be back shortly. Love you.
All right, mate. Take it easy. Thanks for coming in. Cheers. Thanks. Right. Okay. I've still got the floor, I think. So let me just. Am I still on? And it's still sharing, Jeff?
Yeah, it's still on. So good.
Well, Alfred the Great. Now, this actually, if I read this, it shows you what you can do with just the golden rule anyway. So if we start here, Alfred the Great by Diane Severance, PhD. I could tell you the story myself out of my head, but I think she writes it better, and it's easier to read somebody else's article, especially if you agree with it. So I do. So anyway, it says Alfred lived and ruled 1,000 years ago, yet his historic vision for his people, personal courage, spiritual devotion, and treatment of his enemies offer profound wisdom for political leaders of any age, including our own. Winston Churchill noted when looking back over the centuries at Alfred's life that we are witnessing the birth of a nation. It's an exhilarating story. But first, some necessary background. Christianity came to Britain in the 1st century, probably brought by the Roman soldiers, possibly even by one of the soldiers who guarded Paul during his Roman imprisonment. Slowly, the gospel of Christ spread and a strong Celtic church was established in Britain. The Celtic Christians even sent out missionaries to Ireland, St. Patrick, and the European continent. And when the Anglo and the Saxon barbarians attacked Britain in the 4th century, yes, we'll just stay with her version for the moment. The British Christians began to push back until they finally were mostly in Cornwall and Wales. In spite of their missionary zeal elsewhere, the British Christians did little to evangelize the Anglo and Saxon invaders and conquerors. Not until Pope Gregory sent Augustine to England in 597 did the Anglos and Saxons begin to embrace Christianity. Ethelbert was the first Anglo-Saxon monarch to become a Christian, and he encouraged these people to follow the Christian religion. Gradually, the Anglos and Saxons converted to Christ and united with the British Christians in worship. In time, however, the vitality of the church declined. Ignorance, superstition, and luxurious living replaced the simplicity and power of the scriptures and the holy life. Many thought the Viking invasions, which began at the end of the 8th century, were punishment for the spiritual declension of the leaders and the people. More than any other, one man who did more than other to fight against the spiritual decay with the English church, as well as against the Vikings, was Alfred, later known as Alfred the Great. Would heathen anarchy prevail? In the earliest years of the attacks, the Vikings had been content to raid and plunder the coastal areas. By Alfred's time, some Danish Vikings wanted to settle on the conquered land. The Danes conquered the commercial town of London and began to settle in Northumbria and East Anglia in 870 AD. The Danes began a strong military push to extend their conquest to Wessex. It seems that all of England would fall into heathen anarchy and Christianity would disappear from the island. In January 871, Alfred led the Saxons against the Danes on the Berkshire Downs and put the Danes to flight. It was Alfred's first battle, and with the Danes decisively beaten on the battlefield, hope was restored to the Saxon people. Soon after, King Ethelred died and Alfred became king at the age of 24. Some later saw it as a providential that Alfred ascended to the throne of Wessex just as the Danish attacks were becoming strongest. As the warfare intensified, the invaders would make peace and then break their oaths and launch surprise attacks. On the 12th night, 878, when the Saxons were celebrating, the Danes swept down and the whole Saxon army was thrown into confusion. Many were killed while others slipped away to their homes. Only a handful remained with Alfred, who hid out in the marshes and swamps on the Isle of Athelney. This was Alfred's darkest hour. Later stories arose as pictures on page 1 to amuse generations of English children of Alfred's disguised as a minstrel playing his harp in the Danish camps or disguised as a kitchen boy to a Saxon asswife. Towards the end of Lent, Alfred began to call on the militia to assemble at the end of May. The people were overjoyed to hear the king was alive and all the fighting men came back. At the Battle of Ethandun, the Saxons and Danes fought with swords and axes for hours. As Winston Churchill later wrote of the battle, the heathen had lost the favour of God through their violated oaths. Eventually, from this or other causes, they fled from the cruel and changing field, and at the last, full of despair, begged for peace. Victory brings forced baptism. Alfred was both merciful and firm in victory. He insisted the Danes evacuated Wessex, though he allowed them to settle in lands to the east and the north, the area that became known as the Danelaw. Alfred had viewed the fight as not just a military conflict, but as a spiritual war between Christians and heathen barbarians. As the victor, Alfred required the Danish leader Guthrum to be baptized. How genuine Guthrum's conversion was is unknown, but Guthrum at least nominally became the first Christian Viking. The first item in the peace treaty between Alfred and Guthrum agreed to love one God and zealously renounce all heathen practices. Fines were established for honouring a pagan religion or not keeping the Sabbath laws. The process of bringing Christianity to Danelaw had begun. Alfred's contemporary and biographer Asser wrote that the desire for wisdom more than anything else, together with the mobility of his birth, characterised the nature of his noble mind. One of the greatest griefs of Alfred's life was that as a young man, when he had the leisure for learning, he could not he could not find no teachers. Alfred did not learn to read or write until he became king, and he went on to learn Latin as well as native English. To improve the quality of English education, Alfred brought scholars from Europe. He personally translated many Latin works in Anglo-Saxon so the English nobility could read them. Aesop's Fables, Boethius' Consolation of Philosophy, Augustine's Meditation, Bede's Church History, and Orosius' Universal History, as well as parts of the Psalter, were among his translation projects. Alfred also had translated Gregory the Great's Pastoral Theology and sent copies to every diocese in the kingdom. Wanting every freeborn Englishman to learn to read English, Alfred had a plan for the general education of the people and donated half of his personal income to the church and schools. Alfred believed that a king's instruments of rule included men of prayer, men of war, and men of work. Without these three classes properly trained, the king could not properly perform his tasks. So Alfred required his nobles learn how to read to know something of the civilized heritage of Christendom. The strategic pattern of leadership after Alfred's reign was a turning point in Britain's history and actually marked the beginning of the development of political unification and an English royal government. Alfred recognised that as an island, England needed a navy. He designed ships that were more durable than the Viking ships and established an English navy. He reorganised the army into two parts, with each serving 6 months. While one part was at war, the other would be working at home and also protecting the villages. He had larger fortifications built at strategic points to defend against the Danes. These fortifications were known as burhs. Men later became commercial centres and towns. The Ten Commandments, his foundation of Alfred's law code, began with an introduction containing a translation of the Ten Commandments into English. God's law was the basis of the law for Alfred's Christian nation. If it wished to be blessed by God, following the Ten Commandments, Alfred included the law of Moses, Exodus 21, 1:23 and 19, the Golden Rule, Matthew 7, 1, 2, and a brief account of apostolic history and the growth of Christian law among the Christian nations. Christian principles formed Alfred's concept of justice, as he chose the laws were to be included from the Saxon tradition in establishing justice in his kingdom. Alfred was especially concerned with protecting the weaker members of society, limiting blood feud and reinforcing the duty of men to their lords. Heathen practices were forbidden, and the church was protected by law and granted immunity from taxation. There you are. The clergy became part of King's Council. And it goes on and goes on about the coerced baptism of Gotham. Right. In spite of gathering timber for the others to build, in spite of the great achievements of Alfred's 30-year reign, 871 to 901, Alfred was not a strong man. He was sickly and suffered abdominal problems, but persevered to complete the task he felt God had given him. Alfred shows the immense role one man can play in a people's history. He once described himself as working in a great forest, gathering timber from which others could build. Alfred's descendants followed his example for the next 75 years of wise rule for the Christian land. What about the coerced baptism of Gotham? The very idea of forced conversion or compelled baptism often offends our modern sensibilities, but Winston Churchill sheds an interesting light on this event in his monumental work of History of the English Peoples, Volume 1, in which he observed, Alfred had longer ends in view. It is strange that he should have wished to convert these savages to foes, I guess was missing there. Baptism as a penalty of defeat might lose its spiritual quality. The workings of the spirit are mysterious, but we must still wonder how the hearts of these hard-bitten swordsmen and pirates could be changed in a single day. Alfred meant to make a lasting peace with Gotham. He had him and his army in his power. He could have starved them into surrender and slaughtered them to a man. He wished instead to divide the land with them, and that the two races, in spite of fearful injuries given and received, should dwell together in amity. He received Guthrum with 30 prominent buccaneers in his camp. He stood godfather to Guthrum. He raised him from the font. He entered him for 12 days. He presented him and his warriors with costly gifts. He called him his son. This sublime power to rise above the whole force of circumstances, to remain unbiased by the extremes of victory or defeat, to persevere in the teeth of disaster, to greet returning fortune with a cool eye, to have faith in men after repeated betrayals, raises Alfred far above the turmoil of barbaric wars to his pinnacle of deathless glory. I hope you stay with me with that. But buried all amongst there is the Golden Rule, and especially how he forgave Guthrum, the Viking invaders who wanted to kill and take England totally for themselves. And then by using the Golden Rule, do unto others. He showed that in that act with Guthrum. So there we are. That actually solved a dispute, a war, and it brought peace to England. And
you know what,
the
Stav?
Golden Rule.
After reading that, just that little article,
Yeah,
I fell in love with Alfred the Great all over again.
Ah, that's good. Well, that's why he was called Alfred the Great.
He was like King Solomon of his time. He was wiser than most can imagine for that, especially in that time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're talking about one of the most barbarous times of killing and be killed and bloodthirst and greed and all of the bad things that come out of conflicts. At least, you know, at that time, like you say. But for him to give not forgiveness, but to use his wisdom as well as the Golden Rule to be able to bring them together. Yeah.
It's so genius the way he converted heathens, and we're using the word heathen in the old scriptures sort of term, heathen being polytheological people, non-Christian. Anybody during that time that was not Christian or of the native was a heathen. Barbarians, Vikings, the normal tribes, Normans, those are all heathen. Anybody that wasn't Christian was a heathen.
Absolutely, absolutely. You see, all of that, Lopi. Sorry to cut you off. All of it, you can carry on. I'm pretty much finished with it, and all of that, you know, we have today, whether people like it or not. Although it's being absolutely torn to pieces, it's being used by trolls and all sorts of people, right? Common law. He brought common law. That's what he brought to this country. And that's what was spread from this country to all the most western parts. Now, it only started to get really corrupted and torn to pieces after the Norman conquest with their legal system. Now, that's how I view it. A lot of other historical, far better scholars than me, and I'm not a scholar, I just read some books, actually agree with that. But they don't actually put it over as saying, well, you know, what did the Normans bring us? Well, they brought us pretty much the results of what we are seeing now in the modern day era. The legal system, where the legal system completely has trod all over our ancient customs, liberties, law of the land, the whole thing. This ain't no freedman on the land chat. It's what was brought, and it's part of our culture in this country, whether people like it or not. That is part of it. And if they didn't know that, hey, and they didn't know what their culture was or part where it came from, now you can do your own research and look into it and find it.
Yeah.
So there we are.
Excellent, that stuff. Very interesting. I've got a little bit to say. I think tonight's talk, we've been trying to find something that's reciprocal that we can all use, despite what path of life you've got, or what label or religion you want to attach to yourself. And we narrowed it down to a few different qualities. But for me, let me just share my screen. For me, I think this basically sums it up. I think this is it. I think this is the golden rule. Happiness is only real when shared. And I think that's the most reciprocal thing that we can have for one another.
Yeah,
Because we all talk about pursuit for, like Ferraris and stuff like that. But even when you've got your Ferrari, what is it that you're really trying to chase? Because I think it's happiness.
Yeah.
I quite agree, because what is the point of being happy when you're the only one around to be happy?
And I
You
think
don't
that
have anybody to share.
exactly, Lopi, which is if you can see the picture of the two chairs, yeah? And I think if we lose that, then we lose quite a lot that, goes with it. Just remembering that we can't, we're only able to have these experiences because of there being, more than one of us and is being able to get along. That was a guy called, what was the guy's name, by the way? I'm just trying to name the person who came up with that quote. Christopher McCandless, that's it. Christopher McCandless is the one who made that quote. And it's also part of a movie documentary called Into the Wild. And on this Into the Wild, if I can find it, it had a little poem, which were rather good, and I can't seem to find it at the minute. Let me just see if I can find it. I'll pass it over to one of you guys while I find this, and then I'll finish off with that.
I think.
I find it. Yes. Well, yeah, I totally agree. Well, you can be the most creative person in the world, and you'd like to share, but if you've got nobody to share it with, what's the point of being creative in the first place?
Exactly. Could you give us a quick synopsis or scenario or whatever you want to call it about the extreme opposite of today's topic?
Well, we did have this.
That Chinese word that I can't never seem to remember.
Mei Ban Fa, or it's spelt Mei Ban Fa, probably pronounced Mei Ban Fa. It's Chinese word, and it means, well, saying it means no solution, don't care culture of the Chinese. Now, this is something that's part of the Chinese culture, and it's basically, there's nothing you can do about it, so I don't care, and whatever. It's avoiding conflict at all costs, and it's something that the Chinese do. Apparently, it's in every China. It's everywhere. It's just part of their culture where there's nothing you can do about it, and I don't care anyway. And it's an attitude that is, I would say, is pretty much an opposite of what we're talking about tonight, I guess, Lopi. And it's not for me personally, I think it's very destructive if it's allowed to take hold, because it becomes well, you don't want to do anything really in the end. I think it can become
sounds like apathy to me, Stav.
Yes, yeah, pretty much. You could say it's apathy, but it's more than apathy, because apathy is, I don't know, people say today, apathy, people don't vote in the so-called democracy. It's apathetic not to vote because it doesn't mean anything or anything like that. But a lot of those people that do things in an apathetic way do things in a altruistic way in other things. So, but the Chinese
can
tend
you
to put it across
link
the
in?
whole. It's a broadband thing for everything, apparently. So I found out. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I found out anyway.
I was going to have Jeff put this link up while you were talking. It's gives a definition of Mei Ban Fa, and it shows the Chinese characters and everything like that.
Well, if Jeff wants to share that, I'll just read me a little quote out of me. I can't find my poem, but I'm just going to substitute it with a couple of quotes from same thing Into the Wild. It goes like this. Open quote. So many people live with unhappy circumstances and yet will not take the initiative to change their situation because they are conditioned to a life of security, conformity, and conservatism, all of which may appear to give one peace of mind, but in reality, nothing is more dangerous to the adventurous spirit within a man than a secure future. The very basic core of a man's living spirit is his passion for adventure. The joy of life comes from our encounters with new experiences, and hence there is no greater joy than to have an endlessly changing horizon, for each day to have a new and different sun. Then it goes on to say, you have to leave the city of your comfort and go into the wilderness of your intuition. What you'll discover will be wonderful. What you'll discover is yourself.
That is beautiful. Jeff, if you will put your cursor over the Chinese characters.
Okay, doke.
The first one.
Yeah.
Each character gives you in the Chinese language, it doesn't specifically tell you what a word is. Like the word Mei Ban Fa. It has 3 characters. It basically gives you a rough idea. It's very much different than English, where you have one word that means that word or a slight synonym of that word. Whereas the Chinese characters, they give you emotion. They give you like a feeling or a sound, or like the first character, it says drowned. It's a negative, to die, to end without, to inundate, not to have not, none, not have any. It sounds very negative, very, very firm, absolute. The word ban is to go about, deal with, manage, do, handle, deal. And then the fa, basically law, rule, regulations, statute, legalist. Basically, it doesn't mean in the literal sense of the Chinese word. It doesn't exactly mean what it translates to, but it gives you the emotion of what it translates to. It's an absolute nothing can be done. It's a law, as per the word fa. It's a law. You can't change it because it's a law. It's absolute. There's no point. No point to try.
It's like sort of resignation, isn't it? I've given up. There's nothing can be done. Maybe not apathy. Yeah, more so sort of try to find a solution. Couldn't find one, so give up.
Exactly.
It's a cultural indoctrination, as far as I read about it earlier on. It's very deep rooted, and you could say it is a psychological state of mind that that any small problem they are faced with, they say no, Mei Ban Fa. In other words, don't bother me. There's nothing you can do about it. Hey, listen, look, you know, it could be anything, fixing something or anything like that. And they will make an excuse. Mayban Far is, that's it. It's taken as that, where it's, if you've got a problem, the problem can be solved quite simply, but they use it to such an extent that, you know, it's a negative that the Chinese people don't do that, or it's been psychologically driven in through communism. Maybe, I don't know.
Almost the extreme version of "I'm not bothered."
Yes,
it's like the extreme ways of saying "I'm not bothered." Go deal with somebody else.
It's a very dangerous precedent, though, isn't it? Because what he's doing, sweeping the problems under the rug and saying, "Well, let's just not bother with it. It can't be fixed. Forget it." It's
but it's very crafty, isn't it? Because if you can, if people can take that, all governments can take that and ingrain it into a culture and put it into indoctrination of schoolings and that sort of thing. And then people just say, "Oh, shut up, mate. You can't do anything about that. You know, you're not allowed to do that. You can't do this. You can't do it." Eventually,
it's very demoralizing, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think that's what's happened to society. We've become demoralized. We've accepted the competitiveness of society instead of everybody collaborating and working together. We've accepted the downside of everything, and we've just said, "Well, it is what it is. Just deal with it." Instead of, I mean, what we should be doing. I mean, this is where sometimes a bit of confrontation and challenge is a good thing. Once you can get past a certain point, I think things can improve. But you have to look positively. You need to develop a positive mental attitude instead of being defeatist and, you know, and having that Mayban Far attitude, you know.
I'd like to go as the resident Asian here, and I think because I'm Asian, I can probably get away with saying it. As in my travels, I have never, ever met any other, on an individual level, Chinese are fine as travelers. But you get them in a group, in a tour group, they have a very Mayban Far attitude. They have a very, the Chinese tourist groups are the worst. And in retrospect, you look at the Japanese. The Japanese are probably the best hostess, the best tour group, because they get most of the ones that I've been involved with. They are very interactive, whereas the Chinese were very, "I want my selfie. I want a souvenir. I want to touch it. I want to help this. I want to dismantle it, devalue it." They were very aggressive, whereas the opposite reaction with the Japanese tourists, they're very, "Let's preserve it," that sort of thing. Let's look at its beauty. Let's interact with the tour. The culture, and I'm not trying to bash Chinese over Japanese or any other Asian country, but it exemplifies gives example of the Mayban Far attitude, the thought process of that, because a person who lives with the golden rule, who lives with altruism, would, in that aspect of the Chinese and the Japanese, would be the Japanese. They're more caring and more concerned about the other people enjoying and having whatever tour or exhibit they're visiting or whatever. Whereas the Chinese were in tours all about me. I want my selfie. I want the souvenir. I want to touch it. How can, that sort of thing. I'm not saying the Japanese are not the same way. They want to do that, but they have a bit of decorum. The sign says "do not touch." They don't touch, whereas the Japanese want to pick it up and move it. They don't there's a sign that says, "Do not walk on the grass." The Japanese are standing there right next to the sign. You know, I mean the Chinese, not the Japanese. Japanese would dare. The Japanese would scream and holler that you've actually stepped on a blade of grass. You know, it's that sort of mentality of in China that doesn't matter. You know, I can't deal with it. I can't do it. I'm not bothered to listen to the rule. I don't care about you. It's all about me.
I think
And
what's happened in society is that people have become very demoralized and they've adopted this Mei-ban-fa sort of attitude.
well, I think when they go on tours, they have a sense of freedom because they're not in a communist country. Because China is a communist country. And when you live in a very strict country,
it's meant to be a people's republic, but it's meant to be a people's republic.
Yes, but it's not. You still have the mentality, the discipline, everything like that of the communist regime. They'll never get rid of that, even though they are the People's Republic of China now. But you know, they will always have that sense of, you know.
I think we have to go back to the word neighbour, and in West Saxon it means near dweller. So the ones that are around you, basically. It isn't restricted to certain, countries or whatever. But I think if we all did this golden rule with the ones that we meet on a day-to-day basis, I'm not expecting anyone to go around the world doing it. You don't have to preach, the golden rule globally, if I, dare to use that word. But yeah, I think that's it. So let's wrap up tonight, guys, and on his final thoughts, because we're nearly 2 hours in. Or we will be by the time we finish. I've got a little song to play us out on, so I'll let you have your final thoughts, and then if Jeff would like to play us out with that little song.
Well, I think for me to wrap up what I think of the golden rule, I think there's been good examples of it tonight from the articles everybody's brought on, and they're about thoughts and opinions of it, and we've given a version of the opposite in a way. Pretty much covered it as far as we could, so I'm quite happy with that. It can solve almost all problems, but if you've got a Mei-ban-fa type mentality, then I think even the golden rule it would be up against it. But there we are. As simple as it is, a lot of the world's problems can be solved with it. I think it's something we're all born with, and I think it's been there since the Earth ever began to support human life, or human life came. I think you see it. You do see it in nature, even in the predatory side of things, believe it or not. So there we are. That's my thoughts on it.
All right, cool. Jeff, just before you start playing that, I just want you to play audio because I don't want to get any copyright issues or all like that. So,
right, do you want me to?
You don't need to. Drop your screen share. Just play audio through when everybody's finished. Lope, final thoughts?
Well, in a nutshell, the golden rule in today's layman terms: don't be a dick. That's basically what it means. Sorry to be offensive if your sensitive ears don't like that term, but that's the way it is. If you're a jerk, expect that sort of thing to happen back to you. You're going to end up having a bad day. So always look for the silver lining, always be kind, and remember to smile.
My final thoughts on the issue would be, we've been sort of manipulated into a competitive world rather than a collaborative world. When you see the way indigenous peoples live in different tribes in like places like Africa and that, There's no absolute, they don't actually think about giving. It's just done automatically. But in the West, people consider, oh, what if I give that away? Because if I do that, I won't have that, and then I shall run into debt and blah, blah, blah. We live in a debt system. And unfortunately, this debt system sort of correlates with a competitive attitude. Everybody's out to try, and it's become like almost a case of survival of the fittest in the sort of society that we live in, which is not a good thing. I think the world could be a much better place for everybody. Maybe it just takes individual acts of kindness to perpetuate and cause a knock-on effect so that the world can change. Who knows? Maybe that's all it takes. It's just individual acts of goodness. But that's my thought anyway.
Well, mine's, I've said mine. It's short and sweet. There's no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. It's not something that comes to you. You don't find it. It's just something that you become, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then. Right. Should we play this interesting final thoughts there, folks?
Cheers, guys, for that. Great talk, and enjoyed it. And Chrissy as well for joining.
Okay, folks. Well, I'll see you out. Thank you all for coming in tonight, and Chrissy as well, who's not here at the moment. I should play us out then with this tune. Here we go. Good night, folks. Here we go. Good night, folks. Here we go.